Microsoft Excel 2003 Data and Content Fundamentals. You know, when you open up that worksheet or that workbook, what do you typically think? I've got this blank slate in front of me. Well, maybe you now know how it felt to be Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo with your canvas blank before you. What do you put into it? Well, in the world of Excel, we're going to be putting data, content, numbers, text, maybe symbols, maybe pictures. So we're going to show you how to do that in today's video. In this video, we're primarily going to be concerned about the data and the content that we input into our cells. So we're going to talk about text and how they're different than numbers. We're going to look at the dates, if you're putting in March or February and the day and the time, do you actually have the name of the day? We talk about symbols, and then finally we're going to take a look at how we can input some clip art or some pictures, some graphics, and spice up our Excel spreadsheet. So here we are with our blank canvas, our workbook with nothing in the cells. All we got is empty cells. So let's put something into it, some data or some content. Notice I said data and content. Don't forget, you can also put a formula upon this cell or format this cell. We're going to see a little bit of the formatting here in this video, but formulas, they're going to be a little bit later on, okay? We'll talk about how formulas can take data from many different cells or many different locations, manipulate that data, and produce a result that appears in that cell. Again, that's off into the future. We will see that. But here we're going to talk about the stuff that goes into here. We might put a text or numbers, clip art. We can put a picture in there. Maybe we'll put a symbol. Maybe we want a happy face. Whatever we want to do, we can place that into these cells. Now, if I click on a cell, in this case, we'll click on cell C3. I can either type whatever I want right here on the cell, like first, or notice how it's getting mirrored up here in the formula bar. I can also type in up here, first thing. I don't like it. I can click the cancel button, or I can just, merely use the backspace. But let me cancel everything out there. Let's start over from scratch. I click on it. Let's type in first. Now, if I hit enter, it's going to drop me down one cell. Now, I know some of you might already know how Excel treats the enter key, the tab key, and the arrow keys. But enter always drops you down one cell. Tab, let me click that, moves you over one cell to the right. And then the arrow keys you can use just anywhere you want, up, over, down, all over the place. So we've typed in first. Maybe I want to type in second. So I can type in second, use the down key, and we'll type in third. I'll use the tab key. And again, you can see once you're done completing your whatever it is, your text, your numbers, and you hit tab or enter, it will move off that cell. And that way you have that content in that cell. If I want to, I can manipulate that or edit any content by clicking on the cell again and merely typing over it by typing in third again. Or I can double click and get the cursor, and that way I can use the space bar and maneuver. Maybe I have a long string of numbers and I only want to edit a couple of them, or a long string of text. I don't want to retype the whole thing, so I can double click, put the cursor where I want to, and then fix anything that I've got in there. One interesting thing that I want you guys to see here. Look at this. First, second, and third. It's text. Notice what it does by default. It says first is aligned to the left. Second is aligned to the left. Third is aligned. Text by default is aligned to the left. Well, okay. What's different than that? What about numbers? Numbers, on the other hand, are aligned to the right. Check this out. Let me go over to E3 and I'll type in a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'll hit enter. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goes over to the right. Well, because numbers are kind of formulaic in methodology, they usually do line up to that little, they assume that's a decimal here, and so it's going to line up right here. Check that out. It goes all the way over to the right. This is different than text. But what? Just imagine with me. What if I wanted to treat a number as a text and not as a number? Whoa, I know, I'm talking crazy talk here, but think about it. I might have a part number, or maybe an employee's badge number. I'm not going to be adding people's badge numbers or part numbers. Instead, I just want to treat it as text. Well, I can do one of two things. The first thing I can do is I can right-click and say, hey, I want to format these cells. I'll format this cell. And it brings up our Format Cells dialog box, where we have a whole bunch of things that we will pay attention to a little bit later on when we manipulate data. But here, notice our category, how they treat numbers. It says general format cells have no specific number format. In other words, it goes with what Excel assumes you want to do. So numbers will be treated as numbers. But I can also come over here and say, no, I want to treat it as text. And when I do that, it says text format cells are treated as text, even when you have numbers. So that's how I can use it when I format cell. Let me cancel this. Or, watch this little cool feature. I can put an apostrophe in front and say 4561. Now, instead of aligning over to the right, as most numbers do, watch what happens. It aligns over to the left. Wow. Now, watch this. This is the first time you guys have seen, if you're going through this video series, the caution or a flag. Notice I have that little kind of triangle, color triangle in the corner. If I click on the cell, it says, boop, hey, caution, there's something possibly wrong here. If you mouse over it, it tells you the number in this cell is formatted as text, or, hey, pretty smart, it's preceded by an apostrophe. It's got me figured out already. So in this case, I can drop down, click the menu here, and it'll say, here's your problem, number stored as text. Now, do you want to convert it to a number? Do you need some help on this error? If I click on this, it'll bring up the help pane, task pane over to the side. Do you want to ignore the error? Do you want to edit it? Maybe you made a mistake. You didn't really want to put that apostrophe in. No problem. We can edit it in the formula bar. And look at this, error checking options. In this case, we can say, hey, I want to change the options that we have here. So I can click on this, and you can see I've enabled background error checking. It's actually turned on by default. I have an error indicator color, shows in red here. If I want to change the color, I can say, well, you know, red's kind of a little scary. Maybe I want it to be maybe a softer red, maybe a salmon or coral. So I can click coral, and now coral is an error indicator color. You can change the color, obviously. I'm going to stick with red because red's kind of like, stop, check this out. There might be a possible problem. You'll also see here there are a lot of rules that are associated with error checking. We'll see several of these throughout the training series, but the one we want to concentrate right on here is the number stored as text. This is the one that caused that flag. I've stored a number as text. Bad, Chris. You might want to check that out. Maybe I've got this in place and I've got a lot of formulas running and they're saying, look, if it's treated as text, that will mess up the formula and you won't get accurate data. If I am doing a lot of badge numbers and a lot of numbers as text, I would probably want to deselect this. And now, from now on, if I input a number as text or do something to it, it won't flag me. Just think, error checking is a way Microsoft is trying to help you out and say, look, we want to make sure that you're doing this right. If you're doing spreadsheets and you're doing something important, we want to make sure you're not making errors just by accidentally typing in something and that cell was formulated as text instead of numbers. So, okay, let's check this out. In this case, I typically recommend leaving it as is. It's okay. It's just going to put a little color thing on there. It's not going to hurt anything. Let's go ahead and click OK. But let's say I want to ignore this one. So I click on it and I say ignore this error, and bada bing, bada boom, it treats it as text. We've got the numbers. We've got our text. What's something else that we can put is data? How about dates and times? No, I'm not saying that make Excel your little black book on all the dates you go on with your guys or girlfriends. And, you know, no, but instead, if I want to input dates into Excel, Excel is going to make certain assumptions about it, depending on how I type in a date. Many of us type in dates with the good old 3/ today just so happens to be maybe the 10th of March, 2006. And when I do that, it's going to say 3/10/2006. Now watch what happens when I hit enter. It says, oh, you want to use that particular format for your date. Now watch what happens though if I type in it as text like this, March 10th. And I hit enter. Oh, interesting. It's treating it almost, I don't want to call it only the European, but I've noticed in Europe and in other parts of the world, not necessarily here in the United States, that they put the day first and then the month, 10 Mar. So 10th of March is what it's saying. But look, where's my 2006? Believe it or not, let me select this and look up in the formula bar. Look at that. It assumes that it is the year 2006. and or in whatever year you're currently in, because remember, your operating system has the date and the time, and it's going to assume based upon that information that that's what you want in here. You have to be, if you're any year besides the year you're in, you have to be specific. So if I wanted March 10th 2005, I would have to hit it that way. And notice it automatically. That's not the way I typed it. That is not the way I typed it. It formulated it in the way that's by default. How do I change that? I don't like the way it looks. I want it to look like this. How do I get it? Besides having to type in 3/10/2005. Well, here again is where we have to format the particular date time. So we select on it, we right click, and we can say format cells. Notice it says, oh, this is a date. I can see that by your 3/10/2006. And it wants to give you different ways to show up, how you want the formats. And so when you have this, it's going to have, everything from the Wednesday, March, it'll add the day. It'll be Friday, March 10th, 2006. If I want it simple, what they call double digit, 03/14/01. Or single digit, 3/14/01. Just the day. I have many, 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 many different choices on how I want to show up in the environment. Now notice it says our locale is English. We're United States. I can change it to different types of English. I can put it into maybe, how in Lebanon they do it. I can change that, and notice it will change the formats as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. Let's say I want to take and create this whole column. It's going to be dates, and I want them all to appear the same. I select the entire column. I right-click, Format Cells. Now remember, I've selected all the cells in that column, so it's not going to necessarily assume that they're all going to be dates. I'm going to say these are going to be dates. And I don't want it in Arabic. I want it back in English, United States. And I want everything to show up in this format. Okay? So I click OK. Watch what happens. Boom. They automatically show up this way. 10 March 06, 10 March 06. But of course, I told it was 2005, so it shows it as 2005. Watch what happens when I type in now 3/01/2004. And I hit enter. Oh, you mean you want it this way. So I formulated or formatted these cells to treat the dates this way. But these are how dates are going to show up when I'm inputting them now into this column. If I want to change it, again, you just merely format it. We've got our text, we've got our numbers, we've got our dates. What about symbols? Something else you need to know how to do for that exam, as well as trying to do a really good Excel spreadsheet. What we'll do is we can merely come over to a cell, come over here to Insert, and notice one of our choices is Symbol. When I select Symbol, it opens up my Symbol dialog box, and here I have many, many, many different symbols I can choose from depending on the font. In this case, Wingdings was the one that I had open last. And it says, hey, do you want to put a pencil or scissors up and down? They've got a lot of religious symbols here. They've got, even poison, bombs. Hey, remember, we want to do smiley face. So I can insert a smiley face. So I can click Insert. Notice it doesn't go away. Maybe I want more symbols to be used. By the way, if I want, I can also select based upon font. Each font has different type of symbols. Trebuchet has, different kind of text. I can scroll down here and see all the different types of ways of showing those characters in Trebuchet. I can also move up to Arial. Maybe I'm using an Arial font, so I go to Arial and notice the font changes a little bit, but I still have a lot of the different symbols that are available to me just by scrolling down in the Arial type of a font. And they have different subsets. You can do Latin, you can do IPA extensions, you've got Cyrillic, you've got Arabic, Hebrew, box drawing. I mean, you have many, many different symbols that you can use, and even special characters. This is really nice. Have you ever always wanted to add a copyright after your name because, hey, you're a one and only unusual type of person? You can do that right here. Or maybe you want to be a registered trademark. There's a registered, there's the trademark section, paragraphs. All of these special characters are included under special characters. So let's say I want to be a smiley face that's registered. So I insert that. I hit close and it says, okay, It hasn't stopped. If I want to type in some text after this, I could, or put in a number. But it says, all right, are you done? I hit enter, and now I have a smiley face with a registered trademark next to it. That's very simple and straightforward when I'm inputting symbols, if I want to input these into my spreadsheets. Alrighty, now we have one more piece of content that we want to show in this video, and that is a picture or a graphic. Graphics, of course, can be clip art. They can be photos, JPEGs, GIFs, any of those pictures. Maybe you take a picture of a house that you're building and you attach it to the spreadsheet so people can see, oh, that part number identifies, or this house number identifies with this particular home. And it's a great visual. It's really good for your spreadsheets. In this case, you need to remember wherever you place a photo or a clip art or any graphic, is that even though it's anchored at the cell that you start, so I might, say, oh, I want to put the picture here for the first house or the second house or the third house. If I put a photo, notice the photo probably, if I try to squeeze it down to the size of this cell, look out. I mean, you won't even be able to see anything in there. So when I put a photo or a graphic or any, picture, it is probably going to cover a section of your spreadsheet. Does that mean that the text goes away and it like bumps it over? No, it won't. It covers it. In fact, it's kind of like if you took your spreadsheets and you printed them out and you decided you wanted to stick with some tape, some photos of a part number or a house or whatever, you could do that and it would lay over those numbers of that data. So you don't really want to hide things. We'll show you how to format, though, these pictures and graphics so that they don't hide or that they're over to the side. You can change the size and the appearance. Do you want the cells to wrap around it? You can do many different things. In this case, we'll select down here, out of the way, B8. I'm going to go ahead and click the insert. Notice I've got a picture, and I want to choose clip art. So when I do that, it's going to open up my clip art task pane over here. Remember, we already looked at how we have all kinds of different task panes. We're going to stick with clip art. And I want to search for houses. Let's put a house. I can type in and I say, go find me some houses. Now, it's going to give you all of the locally downloaded clip art that comes with your Office 2003. It can be used in any of the Office programs. You can organize the clips a little differently, or you can go to clip art on Office Online. That's neat. They have a ton of clip art that you can get for free online. So you might want to search there as well. In this case, boy, I really like this one. It's got a kind of little painting of a house by the lake, so I select that. So here we have our photo, or painting, I should say, of the house. I'm going to go ahead and close my clip art task pane. See, here's B8, and here's the beginning of our piece of clip art or a graphic. If I want to change the size, notice I have little anchor holding points right here. I can come down here to the bottom right, click and hold, and I can drag it down to a smaller size. See how it's kind of pasted over the cells? I mean, it's not really on cell D or column D, so it's not on D8 and D9 and D10. It's anchored, however, on this one particular cell. If I want to format this, I can size it by eyeballing it, which is what I did. I can come down here and select any one of these anchors and make it a little longer, make it a little wider if I want to, or, keep the same percentage here, and it gives me the percentage up there in the corner. Notice up there in the cell bar there, it says 51%, 49% by 46%. That is from the original size of this clip art, picture 2. If I move it, notice it still keeps the original dimensions and, it says, okay, you're up to 100% if I want to try to get up to 100% here. So there we go. I'm close to 100%. That's what it originally looked like. However, I want to be exact. How can I do that? When I created this clip art, I don't know if some of you noticed, but boop, here came another format toolbar. It's my picture one. I can rotate it. I can compress the picture. I can format the picture. I can reset the picture back to its original size. See, there it is. I have a chance to brighten it, use contrast, colors, insert another picture. I can do many different things. In this case, I want to format the picture. So I click on the format icon, and notice it says, how do you want to do this? Do you want the crop it? In other words, do I want to chop pieces of it out? Do I want to control the image color and the brightness and the contrast? If I want to, I can change the size to something exactly what I want. Let's say I wanted the height to only be 1.5 inches. I can lock the aspect ratio, which means if it's 1.5 inches high and I want it to maintain its proportionality, it will automatically, watch this when I tab over to the width, it will change it to what it needs to be, 1.75 inches. And this is obviously relative to the original picture size if I want to scale it by a percentage. There's the original size. It was 2.53 to 2.95. So I go ahead and click OK. And now I have it exactly the size. If I wanted to have an exact size picture or graphic, here's where I could do it. The one thing that we know about Excel is we are going to be doing some data manipulation or content or inputting it. And so we saw the difference between our text that we input or numbers. Numbers are treated a little bit differently than text. However, we can take numbers and treat them as text. And we saw we show that with our formatting or using the apostrophe. Dates. Dates are a dime a dozen. We have different formats for those as well, so we took a look at that, as well as some symbols, how we input happy faces and trademarks and paragraph statements. Anything like that can be done through symbols. Finally, we looked at our clip art and our pictures, our graphics, how we're going to enhance our spreadsheets to make them look like $1,000,000. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.